What's going on, everybody? Welcome to a little live show covering the NFL draft here on the channel. Of course, Jake Shavink with you guys. And we got two awesome guests. I'm so glad we could get this to come together before the draft. Got Zachary Smith from around the 412, Derek Bell, otherwise known as Steelers DB. Guys, it's a pleasure to have you. I'm so excited to talk a little NFL draft. Just 4 days out. It's exciting. I think all of us were kind of talking about like, man, this runs up quick, and there's a backlog of stuff we want to do and want to finish, and it's gonna be a heck of a sprint to the finish line. So, how you guys doing on this?
Just
on this lovely
24
Sunday?
hours. Just 24 hours in the day. Don't know if it's enough during draft week. It certainly doesn't feel like it, man. Like these are the types of things that I want to do, and like especially this time of year, and it just felt like it wasn't going to be able to happen. So I'm very excited that it all lined up. We're sitting here chopping up, talking some ball, just a few days out from the draft. Excited to be here. Thanks for having us, Jake.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man, I'm glad we could make the schedules work out. Like Zach said, like you said, man, this time of year, there's not enough hours in the day trying to crank out, every little bit last of content that we can, watch as many players as we can. But, I'm really excited, man. This is the best week of the year, in my opinion. I'm so excited for draft weekend. But yeah, we got a lot of interesting prospects to talk about.
Hey, man, content creator Christmas. So
100%.
I'm thrilled. It's going to be a great week, and we're talking a couple positions today. We'll see how it goes. I know there's a little bit of a time crunch, but we'll try to dive in as deep as we can on a couple of these. We're talking corners. We're going to talk wide receivers. I'm really interested because Smitty, you said you've ranked how many wide receivers?
50. I did a top 50 for receivers this year. I watched 56. And when I saw that my guys over at the Stock Exchange podcast put out a top 30, I was like, no, I'm not going to be outdone here on receivers. I watched too many for this to happen. So I put out a top 50, some sicko stuff. When I say this, though, like I want this context to be added. Like guys that are probably outside of top 40, we're talking like one or two games that I've watched of them. There was actually a guy that I was really interested in, Ryan O'Keefe. That was a UCF transfer to Boston College that medically retired, and I didn't even realize it was borderline a top 50 receiver for me in this class. And then going through, I was watching his UCF tape. Actually, very interesting player. Really liked him. And then I was like, oh, he medically retired, so he of course cannot be on my top 50. So I had to replace him. But yeah, a top 50 sicko stuff. I wouldn't recommend doing that. That's why I say there's not enough hours. When we only have 24 here, because I did stuff like this cycle.
Yeah, my guy Smitty's scouting future accountants, putting him in our top 50.
Yeah, I mean,
stuff,
do you want me to bring up the list here, or?
I believe you. I'm very interested to see just some of the names. I think I ended up watching. I put out a top 20 probably about a little over a month ago. I think maybe. I think I watched about. I'm trying to like pull up my notes if I can find my receiver notes. I think I watched like 25 or 30. I did not watch anywhere close to 50 though.
I'm not quite at your level, Smitty. I think I did the combine invites for the most part, and then a couple extra. And there was a couple extra that I really wanted to look at, and they can't find anything on these guys at all. Like, oh yeah, here's this one game on YouTube that's 3 hours long. You want to traverse through
parse
this for
through
this guy? It's like, I don't think so. But yeah, I'm excited to see this because, Derek, I know before you got there, Smitty and I were kind of talking about the Reggies a little bit. I mentioned I went through your top 20, and I was kind of like, felt like I was on the same wavelength reading it. So I'm excited to see how we do that. Let's go to wide receivers first, and we'll kind of let's start. I know everybody's talked about the top 3, but if there's anything like that, stands out with this group that you're like, this is the most excited I've been watching these top 3 and top 3 receivers in a long time. I don't know any nuggets you guys got in the top 3. I know everybody's talked about it, but I mean, gosh, they're so freaking good.
No, I think the top 2 for me, Marvin Harrison Jr. and Malik Neighbors, like certified blue chip caliber players. And like, honestly, Rome Odunze was extremely close to those top 2 guys. But, I just think, Harrison Jr., the traditional kind of build a receiver, the guys that he does everything well, aside from maybe like run after catch ability, but the dude's just so refined. He's so smooth. He saw so much attention, I felt like in college that he's already going to be a number one wide receiver in the door. And then, Neighbors, I think I remember you and I talking about Neighbors last cycle a little bit,
I
Jake,
think
but
so.
the way that dude moves, just so freaking explosive, just creates so many explosive plays. And then Odunze, same thing. Like he has so many like B plus attributes. Like he's so well rounded, does so many things at a high level. Like the way he slows the ball down in flight is just really impressive. So yeah, three excellent guys, and I think all three have probably top 10, top 12 receiver potential. They all come in the top 6 of my big board rankings. So it's an outstanding class.
I actually have 2 and 3 flipped. I have a Dunze ahead of Neighbors.
2 and then Neighbors at 3.
I do. This is a prerequisite. I need it to happen. Whoever Rome lands, the quarterback's got to be able to hit that back shoulder and watch it cook.
Oh yeah, he's a killer.
Amen.
Killer.
Because if that doesn't happen, I might have to redo my rankings and flip 2 and 3 back.
The Giants.
That's a big separator for me. Rome just meets more of like, I guess, my flavor of receiver. I love Malik too, but like Rome is, if I'm building a receiver, it looks more like Rome than it does Malik.
Yeah, and I think with Rome, you're not like just. I know there's some people who have like focused on all the contested catch wins, and I feel like he does so much with like just little adjustments, and like he'll stay on his line on some of the vertical routes and be able to just adjust to that outside shoulder late, where he's just like, it's not like, oh yeah, no, I'm just bigger than this player, I can just win all these. There's like so many little things he does at the catch point that's really exciting. And if you guys seen Matt Harmon's reception perception.
Oh, it's all green.
Receiver. Yeah, the all green for Rome. It's like, man, just
yeah. No, I mean that's what I was talking about with like being able to like slow the ball down in flight. Like I just feel like when the ball's in the air, he just has an uncanny feel for like how to box guys out, how to high point the football, how to catch it. Like he tracks the ball exceptionally well over his shoulder, and just really like a natural catcher, man. Like, and I feel like he can get open too. I just don't feel like one of the things that was like kind of causing me to go back and forth on Neighbors and Odunze was like, I just felt like Neighbors gave you a little bit more explosiveness. And with how hard it is right now to create explosive plays in the NFL level, I feel like Neighbors being able to work like the intermediate area and like his ability to kind of transition quickly from like receiver to runner was pretty special. And I just kind of envisioned that, like what that's going to look like at the next level. But yeah, all incredible prospects. One more thing on Odunze, like I don't do very many comps. Like I've told both of you guys this a lot, but like Odunze is that's my favorite comp I've given this entire cycle. My comp for him was Braylon Edwards out of Michigan, like one of my favorite players growing up as a kid, but really similar body types, kind of won in similar ways. And I think Braylon ended up making like a Pro Bowl or two, but he was a really good player for quite a while. And I think Odunze can be even better. So, but yeah, top of the class, loaded.
Nobody's on the Fitzgerald train for the comp for Rome.
Man, that's how special this class is, though, because I absolutely despise when we start getting Hall of Famers as comps. But like, I haven't even really blinked an eye, to be honest, at all these. Like, I've seen Fitzgerald thrown out. We've seen so many just crazy. I've seen Neighbors comp to like Antonio Brown. I mean, it's ridiculous, but these guys are so good that like I almost don't even feel like I need to lash out and complain too much, because it's just that's the type of prospects these guys are.
You know what caught my eye with the reception perception thing that you mentioned with Rome? The similarity to Deontay Johnson. The percentages are very similar across the board.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Well, just in a bigger body, more consistent.
Yeah. That's insane. Just the way he can. I mean, he's pretty fluid too. He can make some moves at the top of routes and kind of manipulate defenders, move him a little bit, open up some space for himself. But like, Neighbors is like, I think like controlled explosiveness is probably like the way I'd love to describe Neighbors. It's just like he moves like that, but also he never looks like, oh, there are times where he's off balance because he cuts like really hard when he drops his hips and like at the top of routes. But like, goodness sakes, is this a better trio, do you think, than the Waddle, Chase, Devontae Smith group?
Man, it's so close. I would say yeah. Yeah.
I think so too. I think there's the most gap is probably like to Devontae Smith is the clear number 6 to me. So I think that these three are certainly closer. Yeah, I would say so.
I
feel
actually
like
had Devontae, like when he was coming out, I had him ranked ahead of Chase
Really?
by just a little. Yeah.
I think I had Devontae at
Mainly
1 as well. Actually, I
mainly
don't know if you had him at 1,
because
but
Jeez. Okay.
mainly because I remember Devontae, like, and this was a big pet peeve of mine over the past couple cycles because people kept getting comped to him.
oh god,
Devontae
yeah.
played so much stronger than like his frame would suggest, and he was
Sure.
just so quick with his footwork that people couldn't get their hands on him. I felt like the only separator from him and Chase coming out really for me was I thought Devontae was actually better against press, and that's what ended up giving him the edge. Now I think Chase is definitely a better player right
Yeah.
now.
I agree.
But yeah, I had him like kind of Devontae kind of in the same tier as Chase, and then kind of a different tier with Waddle. But yeah, I think this group's honestly better, man. Which is kind of crazy because we're talking about,
know.
I think Smitty and Chase are probably what, like top 12ish receivers already. I mean, that's
Thank
pretty
you.
high praise. Yeah, yeah. You might be wide receiver 2 right now for the Steelers.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So
I
Allegedly.
mean, I also need to play center, but
that is
There
true.
you go. There you go.
Versatility.
Yeah, I mean, I think like Marvin and Malik to me are like, if you put like the order of what the three receivers are now and you put them like back in that order as prospects, I feel like they're both right there with Chase. Marvin might be a little better, right? And I think like they might have
that's
1
what
and
I
3
wanted.
of
That's
the
what I was trying to
6.
figure out. Was
I think they have 1 and
is-
3 if I were to give it like
Okay.
based on like I mean I ranked Devontae Smith the highest of those 3 back in 2021, but like I think right now I think Malik's like maybe just a little bit under Chase in terms of where he's at as a player.
which makes me think about. I don't want to spend too much time doing this before
you're
we.
fine.
This is exactly what we're talking about, though. We're 12 minutes in and we've
I
talked
know.
about 3 receiver
I know.
prospects, and they're the
I
top
know.
3.
I
But it
know.
makes me curious as to who
I
you
know.
guys had order wise for the 2020 class. Obviously, Justin Jefferson ended up being the best, but wasn't really in that conversation for which one would go first between the 3 of Jerry Jeudy, CeeDee Lamb, and Henry Ruggs.
I learned a tough lesson in 2020.
So you had Ruggs first.
I didn't have him first, but I have him second, and that was tough.
Okay.
That was a tough scene. We've learned, we've calibrated the process a little bit after that. That was
I still don't. I don't know, man. That one's a tough one because I liked Ruggs as well. He was, I think, 3 for me. But I think the thing that I kept coming back to with Ruggs was his ability to play through contact at the catch point was very, very unique for somebody with his build. And that's what kind of gave him the pop for me. I think I got too overwhelmed with Judy's ability to cut and some of the route running stuff,
amen.
and ignored a little bit of the inconsistency. So I had him at 1, Lamb at 2. I think I had Ruggs at 3. I was actually super high on Justin Jefferson, like throughout the process, and I put him in the first round, like early on, and then he blew up the combine. And I just honestly, like, he tested better than even I anticipated. I should have, obviously, hindsight's 2020. I should have moved him way up higher, but he ended up finishing, I think, that year as like a top 20 player for me. I don't even know where he was drafted. Was he drafted around 20?
21,
22.
21, yeah. But like, I think the biggest guy that I missed on that cycle was Rager. I felt like his quarterback play was so bad.
21.
Yeah, I felt like his quarterback play was so bad, and I thought that was going to be like, I thought there was just so much still to be tapped into, and it just never panned out for whatever reason. I couldn't even tell you why it didn't pan out because like I feel like I haven't watched him enough. He hasn't been relevant to know. Maybe that's something in the summer I need to go back and look to learn from.
I do. The one thing I remember with Ruggs when I go back and watch Ruggs is watching how many steps it took for him to gear down and get out of a break.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay, this is not ideal. And so like now I'm just like, okay, how good are these guys route runners? How good are we getting out of the break, man? Like the NFL's margin of error is so small. You need to get out of there quick. And so like, I'm sure we're going to talk about a specific player to me that does exactly that at some point here. But yeah, I remember just thinking like Justin Jefferson, when we talk about him, it was just like, yep, great player, no notes. And like going back, it's like, well, yeah, why don't you rank that player at 1? You donut. Like he's great. Like no notes on him, like negative at all. Like just great at everything. Like everybody else like had something where you're like, this question's here and there, and then Jefferson was just kind of like, yeah, he's good. And
Right.
sometimes it's just that simple. So, all right. Let's I want to move to the second tier, of course. Derek, I want to bring this to you first because I think you had the same guy at 4 that I did when I submitted rankings for Cheesehead TV. You had Adonai at 4. Is that correct?
Oh yeah. Oh
Okay.
yeah, baby.
Let's talk Adonai.
I also have him at 4, by the way.
Oh, you do? Okay, let's go.
I am not only like driving the train, I'm willing to go down with the ship 100%. Like my entire
Heck yes.
reputation at this point is on the line. He is my 14th player, spoiler alert, on my big board. I think he's outstanding. Kind of like the blurb that I wrote for Steelers Now, just like I think he's so loose, so fluid. He's just a bucket getter, man. Like I did not see anyone cover him one-on-one when he was actually trying. I just feel like for his size, like how twitchy he is, how flexible he is, and then the straight line speed, like he was getting open deep, and like I could not believe that the betting markets were saying he was going to run a 4.5. I knew that he was going to be 4.4. I didn't think 4.33 or whatever he ran was necessarily on tape, but I knew he was fat, like plenty fast, more than fast for an X receiver at the next level. I just think that like you got to get him to lock in. I will not. I'm not ignoring. I am ignoring actually 100%. I am ignoring that there are some consistency and effort concerns. I acknowledge them. I just personally do not care. I have seen this type of player before at the college level where they just get bored. They've got bad quarterback situations. I'm just going to be honest with you guys. I think Quinn Ewers sucks. No, if somebody can clip that, put it on Twitter. I think he's awful.
2025 take. Baby.
I cannot. There were so many deep balls left on the field, man. For him, for Worthy. I'm also like relatively high on Worthy. I think, like I said, guys that can get open on the backside of 3x1s with no help against press are extremely valuable. They're the most valuable receiver that you can have. I don't care about anything else. Get this dude with in a good situation, like where you can reel in his attitude and everything else, whatever. And I think he's got like Pro Bowl potential. I don't care. I'm going down with the ship.
I think it sounds like we all are.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty close. When you said 14, my eyes kind of lit up there, but like I was like, it's probably not far off from where I am. I'm at 17 overall. So I mean, yeah,
there you go.
It's about in the same range.
I'm not even carrying a life jacket. Like I'm going in with the ship. Yes. I'm going down with it Titanic style. No life jacket, no nothing. I'm cool.
It's just guys like that big against press and against man coverage. Excuse me. Like just how good he was. I know Matt Harmon's thing was like the percentages against man and press looked really good. And it was kind of like, yeah, that matches 100%. And I was not surprised when those numbers came out. Obviously, when you're flirting with all the tempo stuff and, you're trying to get open early, that can be a little troublesome against zone coverage, getting to your landmarks right where you need to be. So I understand that concern a little bit that people would have, but at some point it's like you got to get open, man. Like
here's the thing, okay? It goes back to my corner thing too. Like you can teach guys, like yes, it's really good to have really good spatial awareness and zone coverage and like a good feel for how to get open versus zone. But you can teach guys how to run routes on time. Like that is something that can be developed. And like you have to also understand, like not every offense is built on timing. Heck, not even every NFL offense is built on timing to a T like people think it is. But if he goes somewhere and like there's definitely some false steps you can eliminate. There's some freestyle moments of him doing like the classic like Senior Bowl tap dance and releases and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, the most valuable thing in the sport, like can you tilt the coverage one way and can you get open in one-on-one situations on a consistent basis? And he can do that. Like you can teach him the other stuff. I don't care. Like he's got really good hands. He'll go over the middle, extend, outside his frame, can win in jump ball situations. I don't know, man. I am so overly confident that he's going to be such a good pro as long as like his head's on straight that I just, like you said, no notes. Like I just don't, I'll take the bet on this player like all day long and just pray to God that like we can, get his head on straight. That's all I need. So.
Smitty, anything else on Adonai?
No, not really. I do think it's interesting, like that because Derek and I have talked about this. We don't necessarily see it, but Lance's Airlines NFL mock for or NFL comp for him is George Pickens. And I'd like to get your take on that because we don't necessarily see it. We've had that conversation.
Man, yeah. I get in a little bit of like, okay, Pickens can do that kind of thing. Mitchell does sometimes where he's, show that some of the tempo and that burst to get off the line and like get corners to open up early, give you free access to the quick stuff, which I buy that. I don't know. Pickens got another gear after the catch, man. Like he's got a pretty good gear there. But
I think the big thing for me is they don't win similarly. Pickens is like God level at the catch point. I think Mitchell can do that stuff, but I don't think that he necessarily wins there with the same type of consistency. But I think the big difference is like Pickens to me is fluid and loose for his size, which is 6'2", 6'3", and whatever. Like he's listed around like 200 pounds or something like that.
Yeah.
Mitchell is twitchy, loose, and fluid. Period. Which that is really different when you're talking about a guy that's 6'2" and 205 pounds like he was at the combine. So I just think there's a little bit difference. Like, and I don't mean that as like saying for his size, like he's not a good athlete like Pickens is. And I think that's the big thing that a lot of people that don't watch the Steelers regularly, they don't understand that he can't separate. But like Mitchell, I really do. Like, I think he has the potential to be an elite separator at the next level, man. That's how I see it.
Yeah, I like that you said fluid period. It's kind of like, Garrett Wilson. How would you describe Garrett? Insanely fluid. Like does kind of that, does some sort of that tap dancing stuff, but like, hey, it works. Diggs does the
people
tap
said the same
stuff,
thing,
man.
but this is the same thing that I go back to, like with people talking about taking too long to get in routes and like there's too many false steps. We said the same thing about Garrett Wilson, and Garrett Wilson was wide receiver 1 for me. And then what happened? He went to the NFL, and like he's been having Smitty and me and Tyler and you and throwing him the football, and he's been pretty dominant. So I don't care. I don't care about that stuff. Like it just does not matter as much to me as it does to other people, man. You can reel that in.
It's just like at some point, like I get it, whatever you want to call them, TikTok receivers, I don't care. Like your job is to make explosive cuts. Like explosive cuts are like huge out here. With the like, as I mentioned, like especially against when you're getting like man coverage, or you're getting match coverage, you're like those margins are thinner. It's like if you can make explosive cuts at the top of your breaks and off the release and all that stuff, like you're gonna give yourself nice advantages early and then late in the route that some people just don't have. And like that's why Wilson was we were on this train. We not to keep going back, but like you said, it's just like with Wilson, it was like, yeah, he's good, no notes. Like I'm not
but people overthought it. That's what I'm saying.
6 stuff with Garrett Wilson was just like, that's out of pocket. What's going on here? But yeah, he was, I mean, yeah, that he really is fluid, period. Yeah. Adam saying Steelers trade back. They should definitely look at Mitchell. I don't know, man. You might have to take him right there. Might be some teams.
Literally just did a mock draft on our Around the 412 channel where actually this happened. I traded back, and so when I traded back, it was because I was like, okay, still had Barton on the board, Mims was on the board, maybe Cooper DeJean. There was like 3-4 players that I was comfortable with taking in a trade back scenario. Then I traded back, and they were pretty much all gone. So I ended up taking AD Mitchell. I was like, I don't care that he doesn't play the offensive line or corner. Like we also do need a second receiver. But it would definitely make me really question, how do you still get the offensive line pieces that this team needs to draft? Like the Steelers have just put themselves in this position. I mean, they had holes obviously already, and then they've created more. The Deontay Johnson trade obviously gave them a hole at receiver. You got a outside cornerback and Dante Jackson. But they created some holes there as well, where it's like, not only do they need to draft certain positions, but they need day one starters at these positions. Like they need to hit.
Yeah.
So like, I as much as I love the idea of AD Mitchell and just taking the best player on the board, it's hard for me to imagine the Steelers looking at it that way.
Yeah. Don't trade too far back. Green Bay might take him at 25. I got to keep this bit going. I don't know if you guys know that, but like I keep talking about receiver to Green Bay just for fun. People don't like that very much, but like there's a chance he's like the best player available in a lot of spots in the 20s.
Sure.
It's just kind of like,
Well, if Derek
I
has
mean,
him at
why not?
14, I have him 17. I don't know where you have him. Yeah, he probably would be
Yeah,
the
I think
best
he's like,
available
I think,
player.
I think he's 21st, 20th.
Okay. Yeah.
But like,
I don't know, man. I know like you're about to say that the Packers, like everybody's really happy with the receiving core, and I would be too. Like y'all have got a bunch of good young
Yeah.
studs over there or whatever. But and Smitty's point about how are they going to snap the football next year? Who is going to cover anyone in the secondary? All valid points. I'm going off vibes. I would take Mitchell at 20 and like not
yeah, man.
second guess it at all. I don't care
Yeah.
who's snapping the football. I don't care who's playing left tackle. It would make I would be over the moon just because I think he's going to be such a good player. And I acknowledge that probably is not very smart, but that's if all things considered, and he was on the board at 20, like he's one of the very few people that I wouldn't trade back from. And
See,
I would
this
have
isn't
no
even talking
problem
about taking him.
selecting at 20.
This is, let me entertain this though, because trading back, if they get another day 2 pick for it, then that allows you obviously another pick to, get a center later on. If they, I
Yeah.
mean, they like some of these obviously either later day 2 or day 3 centers. Hunter Norzad's an interesting player that they've brought in. If they really feel comfortable with him as an option, or like slot corner, there's gonna be those guys available as well. Rounds 3, round 4, like day 1 nickels. So I don't know if they trade back and get another day 2 pick. I wouldn't rule it out. Just I wouldn't bet on that happening. I don't think receiver in the first round.
Yeah,
that's fair. Lee says he might take Mitchell over a Dunze. There you go.
All right, let's relax.
Hello.
Let's relax.
Hello. Adam, I saw your comment earlier. It says need the Jets to trade above the Bears to get Rome. There's your back shoulder thrower. I mean,
yeah. There it is. That's why he's right receiver too.
New York, man.
Just
go,
2 50-year-old tackles.
Yeah, just go get a guy out there. Vibes.
Yeah.
Vibes.
That's all it's about.
Just do it. Eagles or Bengals?
No.
Gosh, if the Eagles do this nonsense, man, I know you guys are worried about the Bengals. That's fair.
I'm worried about the Bengals, honestly, in a potential if Brock Bowers slides. Like they're one of the teams that actually makes sense. Like it's kind of hard to find a spot for him, I feel like. Like I know we're talking wide receivers and corners. You know what? Brock Bowers is basically a wide receiver.
Offensive weapon, basically.
Yeah.
OW.
So we'll bring him up right now. Like, where is the landing spots for him? Like 10, maybe 12, 15 Colts, 18 Cincinnati. 15. Like where it's just kind of hard finding a perfect spot for him.
Yeah,
10 to 15, weird. I think is the right range. I think I think the Jets is highly likely. I think 15 at the Colts feels like the floor for me. But he is a tight end. I mean, there's not typically a lot of those that go in round 1. So, you can't rule out like a slide down the board. But, like you were saying.
There's a gap, a very significant gap.
Oh, yeah.
At least for
and
me.
That's the other thing is I also think that this conversation could also relate back to some other positions such as linebacker. I think Junior Colson's he's a tier and a half above like pretty much everyone else, I think, at the position. So like if you're looking for a 3-down linebacker, you may be forced to take him in the early second round, even though I don't know that he's that type of player, but you may have to take him there because like there's just not very many good linebackers.
Or at 25.
I would rather Peyton. Peyton Wilson's my guy. You just have to figure out a way to make sure. I don't know. Can you sign your soul away to make sure he doesn't get hurt or something?
Yeah. He's only had 8 season injuries, season-ending injuries. So if you think
I'm willing, I will cut a
maybe
deal
he's got
with
him out of the way. Maybe he's got him out of the way. I don't know.
But I think the last 2 years though he's played 11 and 12 games, right? So maybe there is something to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
prayer circle.
Yeah, every week, teams fans are just rolling.
He got out of it healthy, baby. He's not on the injury report this week.
That would end up on everybody's post game wins, winners and losers. Peyton Wilson's healthy, winner.
Oh man, all right, yeah. Somebody better be doing that. I better be seeing that every week this coming fall. It's funny you mentioned Colson. You got to take him earlier. I went through Green Bay's picks to make it 25, and I called one of the categories the twisted mind because I feel like it's you could get really out there depending on who's available, and Colson was definitely one of the guys there where it's he's young and Packers need a mic that kind of tracks, honestly. Just if in the next 2 days it's Colson is getting some first round buzz and it's oh man, here we go, Dallas, Green Bay, there'll be some others, but
I want
All
to
right.
bring up
Go ahead.
another player that I have in my rankings that was hotly contested here.
Let's do it.
Is Ricky Pearsall as wide receiver 6.
Ricky's that guy. I like him.
Lot of
I like it as
feedback
well.
on that one.
I don't know if I have him that high, but I mean, big
Mhm.
fan. Big fan.
Again, it just goes back to like he is my type of receiver, like those separators that run the route tree the way that he does, just so smooth, man. I just like he is my type of the top 10 catches, like he's everything that I look for in a receiver. So he just fits the profile for me perfectly.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a top 50 player. I mean, I think like you just look at like the spatial awareness, like that's a dude who understands how to like sit down between defenders. He can read multiple guys, understands leverage, snappy route runner, all those types of things. The hands, exceptional. I mean, like he can catch the ball multiple different angles. His body control's unreal. The Gators didn't really have the greatest quarterback situation this past year. So there was a lot of opportunities for him to make those kind of twisted catches and things like that, adjusting to poorly thrown footballs. And also, like, I don't know how it's going to be at the next level because his play strength was like the one potential fatal flaw I felt like in his profile. He competes his butt off as a blocker, and I really do appreciate that. Like Florida was using this dude like like he was an excellent blocker when he's not, but he was trying so hard to sustain blocks out there. The problem is like the dude just like play strength's an issue. Like there were just times where he would get to like the second level, like he gets those second level releases and guys would try to, reroute him. And he goes flying like 3 yards to the side. I was like, oh, that's a little bit of an issue. So maybe some guys get physical with him out there on press too, but like he does so many things like extremely well. And if you got like a young quarterback that you can, you want somebody just reliable to throw to, like over the middle of the field and stuff, like Pearsall he's that dude, man. Like he's going to be a really productive, I felt like, baseline wide receiver 2 or really high end wide receiver 3, I felt like at the next level.
Yeah, his deployment team by team will be interesting, right? Like he's probably not like McVay's type where you have him inserting in like the run game a lot, right? Like they have Nakua for that, obviously. So he might be like their Z a lot more, which, that trio would be sick.
Let's just say, what are we doing here? Why are we talking him up for the Rams like this?
I don't know, man. I was thinking, Derek, I was just thinking about like, okay, yeah, you can't block in the interior. So like some guy, some schemes will be like, you're playing Z. Some schemes like we want you in the slot. Like,
and I do think that. So here's the deal. Like in the NFL right now, I feel like it's extremely important. Like if you're going to put guys on the inside, they have to be able to block, right?
Yeah.
I think Pearsall does that enough because like I think he's probably the second highest effort guy in the class behind Keon Coleman in terms of just like bringing it every single play, and he's going to try to put a hat on a hat. So like I think in that regard he can. Now there are going to be assignments like you said, like if you're trying to insert this dude into like the B gap and have him at least try to like wall off a linebacker or wall off some type of backside safety, like it's not going to happen. Like they are going to pummel this dude. Yeah. But I do think that he's going to be able to play inside and out. The speed was a nice plus, but I didn't really necessarily see like the 4.4 on tape, but like the dude still won deep. Like he was getting open vertically. Like it was just more like with deception and his route running than anything else, some head fakes and things like that. But he's a really good player, man. Like I'm really glad to see him getting a lot of shine throughout the process. I feel like he's been a big like quote unquote riser and deservedly so.
Yeah. How do we like a high end comp for him like Thielen? Is that too
I've seen
high
that.
end? Is that too high end or maybe a little bit?
I don't think so.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe that's probably like the ceiling. But
yeah.
I mean, and he's white, so like that's a good comp.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
The only thing is like I don't.
Cooper Dean, Jason Seymour.
Thielen was never. I think he is like he does have a little bit more speed. I'm trying not to let like last year's Adam Thielen when he was like struggling he couldn't separate versus Patrick Peterson. But like I do think that he is a little bit better of an athlete. Now Thielen was also an extremely good route runner, really deceptive, things like that. So I see the comp, but.
Yeah, I think, and Thielen, he made some tough catches. He could adjust the football. Like I think there's a lot of things that that feels a little similar between those two. Obviously, yeah, they're both white. That's hilarious. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Listen, I promise I have a different comp for McConkey. I promise.
Antonio Brown. That's the one I've seen.
Oh heck yeah.
he's more if we're doing a comp from McConkey, I don't know what yours is, but if I was to give one, and I don't do comps, but if I was to give one, I would say Emmanuel Sanders sounds like more McConkey-ish
My
than
favorite
Antonio.
thing, though, is Derek saying that he doesn't like doing comps, and
But
I have
doesn't
him in my
actually-
head.
but
I
then
just
he
don't
still
ever let him
has-
out.
he still has one for you.
yeah.
Yeah, I have
love
them in
that.
my head. I
love
just
that.
don't ever like let them out. And some of them are like, I do see comps, but that is one like I can kind of see a little bit.
Well, while we're talking about
Okay,
Lad, where does
let's go to
he
Lad.
come in on here? Where does he come in here for you guys within this class?
Let me see. He was 7 for me.
I think
Perfect. Same.
I think I've got him at 5.
Oh boy,
Ooh.
boy.
Yeah.
All right,
Wow.
let's hear it.
Okay,
We'll,
so
we'll
he's-
give you the floor then. Let's hear it.
Well, you never
So if
know.
80 Mitchell's 4, so at the best,
McConk-
Ryan Thomas Jr. is 6th.
Yeah,
Is that where he is?
that's
Receiving lower.
where he
Okay.
is. But
All
I
right.
think there might be a guy who slides ahead of him. Just based on the vibes, but I just there's a player I really like that I think I might push ahead of him, honestly.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I think McConkey's in the same vein of Pearsall, where it's just kind of like, dude just knows where he needs to get to landmark wise in his route. Like he's running the curls, the 7 stops to like exactly the depth you need to be. In that regard of like how he runs the curl route, how he runs those stop routes, it looks a little like Olave. That's not the comp I got for him, but like that's where he's just like that spatial awareness, work back to the football, like just be reliable and be available, create big windows for yourself. Oh, he's so crisp at the top of routes. You look at some guys that are like smoother, right? That do like the speed turns and they'll get into that. And McConkey's just like, I'll be out in and out in 3 steps. And like that kind of efficiency, that's just the kind of stuff I'd love to see with guys like that. And like he's got some speed too, and the deployment can be really exciting for him. I love the play in the bowl game against Florida State where he's like, I got nobody to throw to. I'll just score reverse field. I got enough speed to do that. Like his speed, I think, was more evident with what his combine time was than Pearsall's, which is fine. Like I think it matched better. And yeah, I know. I think at 186, I think is what he's at. Like the play strength is another thing where it's like press on the outside might be a little more problem for him, a little more of a headache. But man, how much do you see press really today?
Yeah, I
right?
think
like how much do you see? Like
But you mentioned like the cutting. Like there are guys that can cut on a dime, but he almost makes these like sharp in cuts like literally on his toes. Like
Yeah.
instead of like cutting on like the ins or outs of your feet, like he's cutting like on his toes. That's how fast he's running, how much velocity he's carrying through these breaks. The stop and start ability was the big thing for me. He's a killer on double moves, man. Like you mentioned the efficiency in terms of like those curl routes, and that's a big thing on the outside, right? That's one of the most popular routes you'll see in the NFL level. But being able to kind of set guys up, the stop and start to get vertical. I did see him win in stat guys. My big hang up with McConkey, and the reason why I couldn't put him a little bit higher was one, his plan, like not just like the physicality element of press, but like his plan versus press, in my opinion, was really bad. Like he almost looked like he was really shocked when guys would get up there and crowd his space. He would basically just come off the ball and expose his chest. Guys were able to get into him really quickly. And then the other thing is like, he is excellent after the catch. You talk about a guy that can transition like cleanly, like some of the catches he made over the middle of the field. Then you talk about like getting vertical and scoring. Those were really big. There were times where he'd get guys stacked and then he would, the football wouldn't always be thrown like perfectly, but he doesn't really compete a lot with the ball in the air. So like he's a guy that I don't know if which we can talk about with the number 6 guy on my list. I don't know if he's so fast that it's not going to matter when he gets by guys, because I feel like guys might be able to body him a little bit and kind of tug at him, and he's not going to win contested catches. But I do see like a really valuable like number 2 wide receiver here. But I do have some like question marks, and I do think that he may have like a little bit wider range of outcomes than I feel like people are maybe anticipating.
I was trying to find here if he does any boxing, because like the footwork and the head movement that he throws at people on those double moves and stuff is very like shadow boxing like. I wonder if he's into boxing at all. Very odd question, but I just thought of it.
I'm sure if he does, I'm
Probably
sure
need to get to the
Dane's got it in the
combine.
beast. Let me look and see real quick.
Oh yeah, he probably would. I know like him and Pearsall as well. I didn't bring this up a lot, but like the way the both of them attack leverage, right?
Oh yeah.
With off coverage, that's just advanced stuff. I love seeing that kind of stuff where guys are like, oh, I got to move this defender, by the way, and then like be like, yeah, this is no problem. I know what I need to do, where I need to stem, what I can do at the top of routes, like everything I need to do to create windows for myself. I will do that, and I really like players who do that.
Yeah. Yeah. They kept giving
when guys don't do that, I have like bad visions in my head of certain players and like pretty recent draft classes where I'm like, yeah, that's kind of what happens.
Yeah.
Some
Yeah.
days
Off
it goes.
coverage against him is like a really big no go. He destroyed off coverage at Georgia. Smitty, to your question, I'm not seeing any boxing, but three-sport athlete, played baseball, football growing up, an avid hunter and outdoorsman, but basketball was his best sport through childhood. So
Okay.
a lot of sports background. So
Yeah.
but yeah. No, and this is the thing. So oh, what's up, Ryan? Appreciate you. How con? The thing with Worthy and the reason why I did put him above Lad in my rankings was really because, man, I just like he's also in that same realm of like he's never probably going to win a contested catch at the next level. But I'm just not really sure it's going to matter because
It
like
might not.
there's different
Yeah.
levels to speed
Might
and
not.
like he's legitimately one of the fastest players like I've ever seen put on a helmet. Like he is so fast. Like there's certain guys that run these fast combine times. You're like, does it really matter? And like I feel like for him it does. And the thing that like really convinced me to put him number 6 was like I went back and did one more rewatch of AD Mitchell because I wanted to be very confident when I was giving him a top 15 grade.
That's fair.
I just felt like every time Texas snapped the ball, I would look at the defensive backfield and I felt like the fear of God was in everyone's eyes because Worthy would come screaming off the line of scrimmage. And it's like everyone immediately, like defensive backs will have 10 to 12 yards of cushion. They're immediately opening up and running because they're so
Arnold
scared that
was
he's
scared
going to
of him.
run by him. And that's why, like, he just ate on all those deep out routes and all those deep comebacks and deep hitch routes. And, like, he's not necessarily the quickest or the most efficient out of those. Like, I think he's good in that regard.
Yeah,
But I just feel like those are going to be such easy completions at the next level for him because there's still not going to be corners that can run with him. Like, there's going to be a very select few guys that if you don't get him at the line of scrimmage, which, again, are people going to be willing to press him? And even if they are, like you can hide him. You can do all these little cheat motions that they're doing with Tyreek.
Yeah.
And you can get him freed up. McVay's really good about getting his guys free
I
releases.
was gonna mention it. I was gonna mention LA, man.
It depends where he goes. It depends where he goes. But if he gets with an offensive coordinator that's really good and understands how to weaponize his speed, he's going to open up so much for the other guys on the field that I don't even care if he never like actually gets this like 1,300 yard season or anything like that. Like I legitimately think he could be like 1,000-yard guy, like almost like a Deshaun Jackson. That's a really high in comp. But like that's the type of player, like if you got that, he could open up so much more for the other guys on the offense. So,
Yeah.
I just saw Ryan ask that question.
Yeah.
Do any of you guys think I made the prediction that he would? Not even because this is before the diabetes and attitude concern. I just think there's going to be one team that pulls the trigger on the speed before Mitchell.
I would just like to say, NFL, if you're listening, please don't let Kansas City get either of the Texas guys. Thank you.
Yeah.
Just to get the word out
or the
there,
AFC
please.
North.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's fair.
Unless the Steelers.
Yeah, I've seen some mocks with AD to Baltimore. I can't lie. I've seen that a little bit.
I will smash this laptop.
This will be the last draft that I put out anything for.
The content
AD
is
Mitchell
over.
lands in Baltimore.
Oh man,
Mm-hmm.
we're done.
I'm retiring. So if anybody's interested in a YouTube channel or a Twitter account, anything.
There's 2 for sale.
Is it BOGO or are they? Yeah, I mean, Worthy. Yeah, using speed as a form of deception is massive, and if he continues with that, like again, the drops, that's annoying. I get it, but also like as you mentioned with press, it's like there's gonna be a handful of drops that are like the EPA is not gonna like, but then the EPA is gonna bounce back when he has 75-yard touchdowns.
Yeah, it does.
He's just gonna be so efficient on a per snap basis that it might you just kind of live with the drops because he tracks the ball pretty well when he's down the field.
Oh, I think he's exceptional. I think the ball tracking is unreal. again, this goes back to my take earlier. I think Quinn Ewers sucks, and like all these deep balls were like just atrocious.
Just got to make
So
an adjustment
I think,
real quick.
yeah,
Like, oh my gosh.
the one that he caught again, like the one that really stood out to me was the one against Bama.
Yeah.
The one against
100%,
Bama was
100%.
unreal. One, because he shouldn't have had to do that. He was open by 12 yards. So, like, it really should have been an easy touchdown. But there's just so many plays like that on his film. And I mean, I think it was the TCU game. It's kind of what I was talking about with, like, he's not like some of these other guys that quickly transition into being a runner. And I don't think he's not Waddle in that regard.
No,
but it takes him like one or two steps, and then the acceleration is so absurd that the angles don't really matter. Like the one he caught against TCU, he ran like a little like 12-yard out route from the slot, and he caught it, and it looked like he was going to go out of bounds, and the next thing you know, it's 75 yards at the sideline. Like, it just doesn't matter. So I think that there will be if he ends up in the right spot, it's going to be fireworks, and I acknowledge that there's probably more bust potential with him than anyone else. I real quick, because I know we've got to transition to some other guys. I want to have a Keon Coleman discussion because, Jake, I don't know how you feel about Coleman. I've got to talk about this.
I'm out.
Okay, I've got to talk about this.
I know we were talking about this really quick because I know you were like, oh, I can see you being a big Coleman guy. I thought the LSU game was awesome.
Oh yeah, it was
no
good.
Notes after that. I'm done. I'm out.
I thought his Michigan State was
Michigan State
good.
was.
I had so high hopes. He was the most disappointing tape watch for me of all time. Like, not of all time, but definitely of the cycle. But like, we've got to talk about this.
I'm over it.
I wrote about this the other day, like a week or two ago. It just, and I'm not like calling anybody out because like I enjoyed like the different perspectives that come with the draft. It just feels like we are not learning our lesson, like with this type of player, man. Like we see this every single year that these guys play on the outside and they just do not separate. And then the same thing on Twitter, everybody like does these clips. It's like, oh, look at this one play where he separated. Like, yeah, like look at the other 50 plays on his tape. Like he doesn't get open. So it drives me insane because it's like, what, we are not learning from previous mistakes and we're betting on guys that do not get open. That's the number one thing you have to do is the receiver position. Having said that, I do see a good player if he moves to the slot, like a power slot type in the right offense, because he's such an amazing blocker. He's outstanding. His effort's unreal. I think he sustains blocks at a high level for the receiver position. I would love to get the frame inside. I think he'll be good in the red zone. I think there will be things that you can do with him on offense to where he can be like maybe even a potential like borderline wide receiver too if he's inside. But like these people, I'm seeing so many people that are really smart, I feel like, on Twitter talking about him as an X. Bro, these number one corners at the next level, they will lock him up. If you don't win in the first 5 yards, you're not getting the ball at the NFL level, and he doesn't win. So, like, what are we doing? I'm sorry for the rant, but I can't believe we're doing this again. And if I'm wrong, I'll say I'm wrong. I can't believe we're doing this again. It's baffling to me.
I was gonna do this at some point. I was either writing or in this form. Can we go back to like he's gonna get better as a route runner team of the last few draft classes? Who are they? Burks is one of them for sure. He's like, oh, he's gonna get better as a route runner. Guy who just ran and just said no, like, oh, defenders there, don't care. I'm just running to the space. It's like, can't do that. And last year, I think the more I watched, the more the vibes were off with Quentin Johnston. I'm just like, man.
Yep, I was
just the worse it got. The more I was in, I'm like, oh, the vibes do not feel good right now about this type of player. And it's like we're gonna keep doing this. Young, big, fast players who like and people get. I don't know why people get so mad. Like, it's like, can they get open? It's like, yeah, they can. And they show, like you said, 3 clips. And it's like, yeah, I shared the Clemson clip where he pushed off a guy. Like, yeah, he can win with physicality. You put him in the slot, he's gonna just dominate these little slot corners.
And that's kind of where I see the path. Like, you get him inside where he can use his frame, that's cool. But like on the outside where guys are going to be quicker, faster, you're gonna see length. Like, guys on the outside also have 31, 32-inch arms. Like, they're gonna be able to get their hands on you. And if you can't stack anybody, he didn't stack anybody last year. Like, I will 100% acknowledge that Jordan Travis's inaccuracy issues played a big role in why his numbers look like the way they do. And I don't even care about the contested catch numbers. Like, he was 10 for 30, which is not good. I know the dude can win at the catch point. Like, the dude can jump out of the gym. I love the way he uses his body. But at the same time, like, you are never going to be like, we're still mocking him in the top 20, 25 picks. He's still probably going to go in the first round. I don't see how many good to great NFL receivers are winning on the outside right now that are not at least good separators. We're talking about Coleman as a bad separator. Name me the receivers that have this type of profile that are having success on the outside. I don't get what we're doing.
I'll throw out some more names from 2020 if we want to go there. Mims, Chenault. People talk themselves to Claypool being outside. He needed to be a big slot from jump.
Low blow.
One.
Come on.
Mingo last year. We tried
to
push him up so much, and I remember going through like his film and doing a video on him. I'm like, this is a good slot receiver. Like, you can do a lot of things with him in the slot because he's a big dude, but like, he's just it's
Carolina put him outside. Carolina put him outside. And what happened?
I'm sitting like, we're like, you're surprised that he can't get open. It's like we've done this, man.
And this just goes back to like I bring this up. I brought this up on multiple different podcasts, but like, there is a severe disconnect, I feel like, because there's so many people that put out great draft content, and like I said, I love hearing like the different opinions and like people backing up their stances and stuff. But I feel like the number one like under discussed thing with the draft content space, when you're trying to translate players to the next level, you have to have a good understanding of what works at the next level. Like, that's the thing. Like, It's one thing to be able to say like, all right, these are this dude's strengths, these are this dude's weaknesses. Like, if you put the time in, like, you have a good eye for ball, like, you can distinguish those things. But like, understanding what actually works in the NFL is a really big part of how to rank and grade these players. Because like I said, we've seen this archetype of player fail so many times over the last 5-10 years, and people are still falling for it. And maybe he's the outlier. I don't know. Maybe he's so dominant in those contested catch situations that it won't matter. I'll be willing to miss on that type of player.
I'm not going to be there.
History tells me that I'm on the right side. So
I refuse to be there.
He is the fourth player, or if he were to draft in the first 4 rounds of this year's draft, which I still think is safely going to happen. Some teams would take him there. He will be the 4th wide receiver that is 213 or lighter to run a 4.64 or worse. Jarvis Landry, Vincent Brown, David Bell are the other 3.
Okay, so don't know who one of those is. David Bell is a fringe roster guy, and then Jarvis Landry was a really good slot receiver who was a good blocker. So that's what we're talking about.
When Bell has had snaps in Cleveland, it has been in the slot. Pretty much entirely. So
that was another guy that I was lower on, because you turn on that dude's film and it was all like contested catches and like he couldn't run by anybody, and people were convincing themselves that this was, a player that was gonna, like you said, get better as a route runner, get better as a separator. Like, it doesn't always happen like that. Can you improve in those areas? Yes, but like, if you don't get open in college, there's very slim possibility that you're going to go to the next level where there are bigger, stronger, longer athletes guarding you, and you're instantly going to start figuring out how to get open. It doesn't work like that more often 100%. Than not, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, right. One more name, N'Keal Harry.
Oh, I thought you meant one more receiver.
No. Just on the all team of like, he'll get better as a route runner.
Yeah.
It's like, brother, we gotta, and it's like, I'm just not going to be there. If he succeeds, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's sick. I will be excited for him. I'll be glad that he
100%.
I'm just not going to be there.
And that's the thing. I think is the right approach. Is like, you stand wherever your opinion is or whatever, but like, you root for the player to prove you wrong, have a successful career, and then for me, it's like, okay, I can live with my process. What do I need to tweak next time so that I don't miss on this player? Like, if we start seeing these guys out of college that are coming out, at this size and everything else that don't separate, and if it ends up starting to translate to the league because of the way the league adjusts, or we start to see these guys have better success rates, then I'll adjust my process. But I just feel like there is so much overwhelming evidence, man, that like I can't believe I just can't believe we're doing this again.
Yeah, and Smitty, you brought up the 4.6, which I think is fair, but like I think it's like I think it's good to be worried about that. I think you see the play speed be better than 4.6, but like for me, it's like I think the 4.6 knocked everybody like down the board for everybody, and I'm like, no, it's just the fact that he can't get open.
I was just looking for
about no 4.6. Like, if he got open as a 4.6 and he was doing all of the requisite things you need to do to be open, and like he found a way to get that done, then I'd be like, okay, the 4.6, I'm not as concerned. It still matters. Like, I want you to be faster, more explosive, but like, I was like adding context. He's also an outlier. Right.
like
Exactly.
in that
In many
regard.
ways. Yeah. So, all right. Where do you want to transition quick? Do you want to go?
Probably.
Want to go? Javon Baker? Javon Baker? Anybody?
I have Baker takes.
All right. Let's do it.
I mean, where's he at for me? Let me just real quick because Derek should have more to say. I assume 1, 2, 3, 4. Wide receiver 16 for me.
Okay.
Yeah, he
Kind
he
of in that
finished.
same Malachi Corley-ish range.
Yeah, he finished 13 for me. I mean, I kind of wrote that he was kind of that throwback X. I actually think like he's the throwback X that everybody's trying to kind of project Coleman to be at the next level. Like if you want somebody who can run the route tree, um, he does a really good job against press coverage. I feel like he's got a really good plan versus press. He can use different type of releases to get open. He climbs the ladder. I don't even know what he jumped, but I didn't even look to see honestly because he wins contested catches. Those back shoulder fades you mentioned earlier with Rome. Baker did that a lot. I felt like too, like the sideline awareness was really good. I think the one thing that kind of hurt his profile for me is like he did a lot of damage, like as a deep threat, and there was some busted coverages in his profile as well. The one thing that like kind of left me wanting more is like I just wanted more. I wanted more burst, and I didn't see it. And like I questioned like what type of ceiling he can have. You might be able to get like some type of like I actually don't know if this is like a stylistic comp, but more of like a ceiling type of player, like maybe like a Michael Gallup type of player where like he plays on the outside and like he's probably like your number 3 type of passing option. But Baker does a lot of things well. Like I said, it's valuable to be able to beat press. I do think he's a good route runner, not just for his size, but a good route runner, period. So, I do like him kind of in the 3rd round.
Yeah.
Jake, my boy, Romeo Dobbs,
really
most
quick.
common, most draftable.
Really quick, I will
That
say
sounds about right.
He's at 7 for me.
Ooh.
I love Javon Baker, man.
Nick Martin does too, I'm pretty sure.
I love him. I
Wait, so is that the one that you were saying?
I could move ahead of Brian Thomas, yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
we're moving. Oh, okay.
Yeah, listen, I was a little like more conservative with the move when I put his rankings in the draft guide because I'm like, we'll see it. But like I went back again, all the UCF stuff. I'm like, man, I know I get what you're saying, like the production on some of those busted coverage, like deep balls. I know he ran like 4.54, I think. But like, just he like you said, he has some of the X traits I like, and I'm like, put him on the outside, let him cook guys in the slot. Everybody's passing around that Boise State rep. I love that rep so much. It's just classic route running chops.
He's got some lower body flexibility for his size, and that's what kind of intrigues me as like a guy that could definitely be a starter. Man, I love okay.
Him. I mean,
that's good. I don't know where Nick has him. Let me see, because I know Nick Martin liked him a lot too, because he was actually the one who hit me up like before the Senior Bowl. Like you've got to watch this guy, and I liked this. It was good.
I was upset with the Senior Bowl performance. It was tough. I have the video of him getting hitting the helmet with I believe a Penix throw. I think, which is a tough scene.
Yeah,
but I was like, man, I was like, I wish he had shown out that week. But I feel like everybody went back and was like, I feel like Puka didn't show out that much. I feel like everybody was kind of like,
he only played. Wasn't he only there for like one day and he got hurt?
Yeah. So I was like, everybody's kind of like, oh, Puka showed up at the Senior Bowl. I'm like, I don't think he did. I don't remember him like doing a whole lot. And that just reminded for me, it's like, okay, yeah, he didn't have it. Like the Senior Bowl wasn't the best for him, but like the film's really good. And I'll go down with the ship. I'll go down with that one.
No life vest.
Yeah, no life vest at all. That's my no life vest guy in the class. Like
Nick has him at 39 on his big board.
I think he's gonna be around there.
Yeah, he's big. He's gonna be in the 30s on Baker.
He's gonna be in the 30s for me.
Sure. We could talk real quick about
Brian Thomas.
Because I think there's a comment in the
Chris. We'll definitely
in the chat.
Thomas for sure.
Well, I mean, I feel like you can't lead this conversation because you're knocking him down the big board like as we're on the podcast or on the stream. So like, I feel like you're not the one we need to go to here. No. I have Thomas at 5. He's actually like a fringe top 20 guy for me. Obviously everybody knows like the height, weight, speed freaks, that come out. I feel like we get like one or two of these guys pretty much every year. But, Thomas was incredibly productive. I think he had like 15 catches of like 20 plus air yards last season. He was dynamite on like slap fades, go balls. I mean, his athletic profile, I feel like, is the selling point for him. But I also felt like his development versus press, like you look at him at the beginning of the season versus press coverage, and then you look at him like 5 or 6 weeks later, and this is something that I really didn't discover until probably about a month ago. The dude was improving, man. Like I felt like he was definitely on the right trajectory, understanding how to use his hands, how to keep guys off his frame. Definitely looked like he had a plan versus press. I think his feet are quick. And then obviously there's not really a ton, like he wasn't asked to do very much at LSU. Like I get that, like the route running tree it's either in the line, a hitch, or occasionally a slant, and they really didn't let him do it as much of that as they should have, in my opinion. But I just think that I look at the lower body flexibility with him, and I think it like how much better he got versus press, and the fact that he's only a junior, he's one of the few underclassmen that we've got in this class. I feel like I'd kind of describe like his ceiling as like a game changing terror, and that's really the type of ceiling that I feel like he could be. Definitely a number one caliber wide receiver. If he continues on this development path.
Yeah, so with me, like you mentioned, what I wanted to say was just I felt like it's more of a question about the route tree than it is feeling like he can't do it. Like it's all
Yep.
like crossers.
100%.
Yeah, so like with me last year, like I was not on the Jalen Hyatt train because I felt like he couldn't do it. With Brian Thomas Jr., I don't know
Stiff.
if he can. It's more of a question.
Hyatt's definitely the guy that like gears down to like 6 steps, and you're like, all right, man, we gotta work on that flexibility in the lower half. 100%.
Yeah.
Didn't mean to interrupt you, but
no, that's what I was saying. It's like all verticals, crossers, and drags for Brian Thomas Jr. But I don't know if that's just a product of like I'm not saying that he can't develop more of a route tree.
Oh, for sure.
It's a question for me.
It kind of goes back to like we didn't even mention, like, I mean, he took strides last year in terms of playing the ball at the catch point, like going up top shelf and dunking on guys too. Like there's several plays on film of him doing that as well. So the fact that I do think that there is improvement to be made as a route runner and there's some potential there, combined with the fact that, I mean, this dude's he's like 6'3", 200 pounds. He runs a 4.3. I mean, that obviously is an incredibly enticing athletic profile. So the dude's going to be a potentially dominant deep ball threat at the next level. I don't think he's very good after the catch. I mean, there's not really much like spatial awareness for him. Like he doesn't feel or sense guys that are like coming to tackle him from behind on those hitch routes. Like he doesn't transition extremely well. But like Smitty mentioned, on those crossers, I actually wanted to see them give him more opportunities because against some of those man coverage teams, I felt like there was opportunities to be had on some of those drags or deep crossers over the middle of the field. And it's not asking him to do anything other than just be an athlete. Like, dude, we don't think that this corner playing, like you can get him in a tight split. This corner's in the outside leverage. Like we already know, like if he's got the leverage advantage, he's winning this foot race. So there's stuff that you can unlock with him. He was like his temperament as a blocker. I kind of described it as like really modest. It was a little bit up and down for me. I wanted to see a little bit more, especially for a guy with his frame, but I'm a believer. I would take him in the first round. I know he's I don't know what he is on the consensus board. I haven't looked in a while, but he was kind of around that range, like top 20-ish.
18 at the moment.
Yeah. So that's about where I have him. I would take him in the first round. Just like if he was to end up in a place like Buffalo, like that would be incredibly enticing to me. Kansas City, I feel like those two spots are like where everyone wants these really talented receivers to go. Yeah. But really, really interesting player for sure.
I mean, if Christian Watson can't stay healthy,
are you saying that with a question mark, as if you still think he might be able to
stay healthy? I have a little hope there.
Okay,
but I think
Packers should draft Peyton Wilson, and those two would become best friends.
Right, exactly. I'll see you in the training room on Monday. Yeah. No, I think I be thrilled. I think with him in like Green Bay because I think the type is exactly still kind of what they need. Watson health somehow magically improving, for a full season pending. But yeah, I think that's the one thing I'm like in my head. And I know I think about wide receivers way too much every year, and I don't get to the other positions fast enough. I think he sometimes looks like just a little, and I know it's like probably just lack of experience stuff. It's just looked uncomfortable running over the middle sometimes and like trying to navigate through traffic, and he just didn't feel as comfortable. And yeah, I think the after the catch stuff, which I think is a pretty hefty part of my evaluation is kind of like, okay, he's got the deep threat stuff. The ball skills are tremendous. There's a few places I would like to see it, and I think with him, I'm less hesitant on as Smitty mentioned, the ability to develop a full route tree, because I think you've seen that lower body flexibility, especially on the hits routes. Like you can see him get down really well to the top. But at the same time, when I'm like thinking about Baker a little bit more, I'm thinking about Mitchell. I'm like, those are my X's. And I like those types.
Yeah, it's more of a projection
And it's like,
with Thomas
okay,
for sure.
Yeah, and I feel like Thomas will be like this guy where you go, yeah, this is a really nice Z and like insanely good deep threat that's going to open up so much for your offense that people are just going to have to maybe a little bit less than worthy, but like you got to know where he is at all times for sure. It's not really a dig on Thomas that I have Baker that high. I just just love Von Baker, but like, yeah, Thomas is excellent. He should not leave the first. There's no way. Like there's just I don't like thinking about Kansas City getting any one of these guys, but like, yeah, they very well could. Detroit to move up. We haven't talked about that, but like maybe Detroit gets they got to get a better version of Jameson. But yeah, I think I'm not out. I'm just I got some other guys in that tier that I feel similarly about, but like, yeah, Thomas really, really exceptional for what he is right now and maybe what he could be.
Yeah, I just DM'd Nick Martin because I wanted him to know that you had him as wide receiver 6, just so that he could feel a little bit vindicated.
Not 6 yet. He's still 7, but he might,
7.
Go ahead of
Sorry.
Brian. He might go to Brian. They're close. Those two are close for me.
I'm putting him at wide receiver 6 for you. It sounds like you've already got your mind made up.
All right. Sounds good. Hey, maybe he'll get over McConkey too. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's possible.
It's true.
Well, I mean, why stop there? Just shoot him all the way up.
You know what? Yeah, he's better than Rome. I'll tell you. This is not on the record.
Yeah,
but it is, unfortunately. No, yeah. So yeah, Brian Thomas, really nice player. Do we want to hit on a few guys? I know there's so many. It's a big class. I don't know. I know we're over an hour just on the receiver position, but
we are
great position to talk about. Do we want to just move down the board a little bit more? Talk about a few mid to later round guys that we like.
I'm interested in your take on Roman Wilson, Jake.
Okay.
If you have Roman Wilson takes for me,
I have some. I know there's some projection for him to be a Z, and then I watch him like handling Rutgers cornerback press, and I just am like kind of like, I think there's enough speed to work with where like he is. When I looked at like McConkey and I looked at Wilson, those were the two guys where I go, okay, like McConkey's crisp and he's got like a lot of that just insane top of route like transitions. Like Roman Wilson's more of the smoother guy where he like you can run these crossers and you can like get him on like really good like curvilinear or like just straight crosser paths at receiver because he's got enough speed to work with. He obviously like elevation, contorting, control at the catch point I really like. I still think he's probably just a slot for me, like, but I do think he can be a pretty good one for a team. I'm still in the wide receiver 3 camp. I mean, he's a battler out there. I enjoy guys who battle, like even as a blocker. I think he battles as much as he can out there. But yeah, I think I don't know. I was hoping to see more. I think he's I think there are times where he does a good job threatening the outside hip, even from the slot, and he can kind of move defenders. And so there's a lot of that there. I don't think I'm on the same tier with like Pearsall's and McConkey's as I am with Wilson. I like him. I think I don't love Roman Wilson. I think that's where I'm at. That's probably not as hot take or lukewarm. Maybe that's lukewarm for you, Derek.
Yeah, what was that?
It's just kind of like, but
yeah, I don't know, man. I don't see it. I'm not trying to be overly negative on the stream. I don't see it with Wilson, man. Like you mentioned, like the straight line speed and athleticism, the acceleration off the ball is definitely evident. Like if you give this dude a runway, like he will run away from people. I absolutely love that he's like a featherweight and like 150 pounds soaking wet, and he goes in there and he'll try to dig out safeties, he'll crack block. I mean, he mixes it up against the run. Like I definitely appreciate that stuff. I don't think he's a very good route runner. I don't know, man. I just didn't see him consistently getting as much separation as I want. And like, I definitely see him similarly in terms of like positional alignment. Like I think he's going to be a slot only receiver. And it kind of goes back to my conversation earlier that I was bringing up about the NFL, like wanting inside outside versatility. Like we want these guys to be interchangeable to where you can, like, whenever you need to, you want to be able to put your best guy in the inside. And I just don't like, I feel like if he goes outside, it's immediately going to be one of those situations where the corner just rolls up and gets just bodies in. Like, there were so many times where guys would get their hands on him at the line of scrimmage, which as a smaller guy, like, you want to be able to use your footwork to, and your hands to kind of wipe those off quickly. Like, he didn't have a plan in press, but then once guys got their hands on him, he just was content with them, basically wrapping him up down the field. Like, they're just, I don't know. I don't know, man. Like, I just think it's a lot bigger of a projection, I feel like, than like what people are saying. And I feel like if we were in this kind of like old school Peyton Manning 2x2, 3x1, like NFL, where it's like really spread out, like you had that traditional slot receiver that you just put in and he was going to run all these like juke routes and all this stuff, like maybe he projects best there. I don't know. I feel like he's fairly limited. And that's why, like, I ended up putting him like with like kind of like a late third, early fourth for me. And like, I was kind of surprised, to be honest with you, because I looked at the consensus rankings, like I said, a couple of days ago for the receivers, and I feel like he's in like top 50 buzz. So I don't know.
47th. I think that's very rich.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like it's not as strong as my Keon Coleman take, but it just, I don't know. I feel like I keep asking, like, what are people putting him over like some of these other guys that are like slot receivers that were like more productive, more well-rounded, aside from the fact that he ran like sub 4.40. Like, he is fast, like 100%.
Yeah.
But aside from that, I just don't really see anything in his game. Like, for a fast guy, I don't think he's all that great in and out of breaks or understands really how to like run routes right now. So it's just, he's a little bit too raw, and there's just more of a projection there for me to put him too much higher.
Yeah, he's more of like, I agree. He's more of like just get me on a smooth path that I can be on.
Yeah.
And I'm in good shape. You trying to make me run like, out routes and comebacks and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's just not.
I'm kind of out there.
Yeah.
I don't need any of that. But I mean, I don't think he's like a type of guy that, like, I think range of outcomes, like, I don't see him ever not on a roster, because he just like, there's so much he competes at that I'm like thrilled to have him in a receiver room. But yeah, wide receiver 3, I think is the ceiling.
Yeah. That's
I think he's we talk about this all the time, but like, if we could re-rank after finding out landing spots, like for him, I think it's even more important than a lot of these guys at the top.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. I think there's some other guys like in this class that, I feel like are in that same kind of category in terms of how I like want to put them, and like something that I've made adjustments to, I feel like in the last year or two, just because I feel like this is where the NFL's headed. Like, I value guys that not only have lined up inside outside, but like that I feel like are going to be able to do it at the next level. And that was one of the reasons why Wilson was outside the top 15 for me, kind of in the similar range that like guys like Malik Washington, who I absolutely love his tape. He's an older prospect, but like everyone knew that he was getting the ball last year and nobody could stop him. Like, he's excellent after the catch. Like, he has phenomenal contact balance. I actually think like he does some of the things that people love with Malachi Corley a little bit better, to be honest with you. And he's a more well-rounded receiver. He's just older and probably like a more, more closer to like his ceiling than Corley is. But, it's interesting. I do feel like there's going to be talent, as we get to the middle rounds and things like that, like with this wide receiver class. But, how guys come off the board is going to be extremely, because there's so many different flavors. Like, I feel like it's going to be a pretty crazy draft weekend. Like you said, like landing spots for a lot of these guys, especially on day 2, like really, really matter.
Yeah, I cannot wait to see where guys like Thomas and even Franklin, I know we kind of didn't touch on him to this point. Like, I'm really intrigued to see where he lands, because there's some things where he's kind of in that vein for me, like Worthy, where it's like, catch point.
Yeah.
We're really going to have him run over the middle of the field, Oregon. Interesting. I don't know if I would do that.
Yeah, no, Franklin, I'm just going to go ahead and say it right now. Like, Franklin is the guy that we will be on this pod 2 years from now, or on the stream 2 years from now, and we'll be looking back and say, like, you should have known better. And this is a guy that, like, I just preached that we've seen guys like this flop. And, like, generally speaking, thin guys that are mostly, like, get a lot of their production on the deep vertical, like, that don't track the ball exceptionally well typically
That's the
scare me.
problem. That's the problem.
But the one thing that I kept coming back to is I think that his hands in 2022 were a lot better than they were in 2023, and he will extend beyond his frame. I think that there is more to him as a route runner than people are giving him credit for. Like, he understands how to manipulate tempo. Like, there's some nice double moves with him, shoulder, head fakes, attacking blind spots, things like that, that I feel like he really understands the position really well. I just, I acknowledge that, there are some scary parts of his profile that, worry me a little bit, but he finishes like wide receiver 8 for me. He's like a top, 50-ish player. But I definitely think that, it's going to be interesting because he's the guy that I honestly, like, out of all the 20 guys that I ranked and like the 25 plus guys that I watched, he was the guy that I honestly felt the least best about his final evaluation.
Nick Farabaugh is wide receiver 4, by the way.
I know, I know he's wide receiver 4 for quite a few people.
Is he really?
Yeah,
I thought.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Judging by my timeline, I feel like everyone hates Troy Franklin. I thought I was high on him as wide receiver 8.
No,
I almost quit working for Steelers
9.
now.
I've
been Nick told me that.
But like, yeah, I've seen him. A lot of guys who focus, of course, on like the production numbers and a lot of that stuff have him really, really high. Same with Worthy, right? Like they kind of see the Adonais and the Brian Thomas as outliers, right? Because of like the career yards per out run, all that stuff.
The nerds.
Yeah. Which, I think it's always fun to look at those and like, okay, where's some outliers there? But like the like, I can't get out of my, and it's terrible to get these things in your head, but like, I can't get out of my head at the combine watching him retreat from the ball at the catch point. Mm-hmm. Like, brother, we can't be doing that at the NFL level on a crossing route. Like, oh man, like, you're going to invite people in.
Yeah, he's
at the
like
point?
I said,
like,
he's the one that I feel the least best about, to be honest with you. And I'm very fascinated to how his career ends up, because it's going to be a lesson one way or the other for me.
Yeah.
It's definitely someone that I will be, retracing my evaluation. I don't know. Wide receiver 4 is crazy. I honestly, like, everyone on my timeline, like, I guess maybe it's the people that I follow, but I feel like I see a lot more Keon Coleman love and a lot more Troy Franklin hate. So I assumed that everyone hated Troy Franklin.
Interesting. I feel like I've seen the complete opposite. So that's funny how
it's kind of funny though too. It's kind of funny though too. Like, you mentioned the production stuff, kind of what I mentioned with Baker. You want to talk about some blown coverages and some kind of faux production. Yeah. Like, Franklin was awesome, and his production, it speaks for itself. Like, he was extremely productive the last 2 years. Like, he's a good player, but at the same time, like, some of the deep balls that they caught, like, guys not lining up on that side of the field, that USC play at the very start of that game, that safety took the worst angle I've ever seen in my entire life. So
honestly, I just kind of watched that back for a laugh. That's hilarious.
Yeah,
watch.
Some of that stuff,
USC defense in a nutshell,
whatever.
Right?
Yeah,
some of that's
yeah. But I was like, come on now, like, we're not serious. We're not serious.
What's up, Braden? Yeah, we did talk about Javon.
Wide receiver 1, Javon Baker. Per Jake Shavink.
He's in the top tier, right? He's in the top tier, right? It's neighbors and him. Which way do you go? No, yeah, we talked about him at pretty good length. I'm going down with the ship. No life vest, Braden. That's basically where I'm at. But yeah, Franklin's gonna be an interesting one. I know we're running down here. We talked a little. You mentioned Malik Washington. I think you hit on him pretty well. Like, there's the guy with that kind of frame playing slot receiver. Like, come on, let's go. Yeah. I'll go to war. Let's do that.
He's a tank, dude. He's like, what is he? Like 5'9", 190. Like, he's well built.
That's exactly.
He's just short.
He might be 5'8", 190.
Yeah, he's just short.
See what it is. I need to know, because I think there was I think the Tennessee film. I don't know if you watched that game. Like, there are times where he's like a little bit of like, okay, I'm running into contact a little bit when I'm running through my routes, but then you watch him like make that sick catch by the sideline. Guy comes in and hits him, and he stays up. It's like, how are you doing this? He's 5'8" and a half, 191. That's
the thick
sick.
Boy.
That's sick.
That powder keg.
I think there's some things to work on. Like I said, I think the Tennessee game, which is like best competition they probably faced, all
Mm-hmm.
year. Where it's like a little bit of like, all right, you need to adjust path in the route, or if you need to move the defender, let's move the defender.
Instead
But
of
like
just
at the
truck
same,
sticking them.
yeah, exactly. And it's like, okay, we can get there a little bit with that because I've seen some of the other route tree that he shows even on the perimeter or in the slot. Like I feel like there's a decent bit to work with there. And like you mentioned, after the catch, like come on,
Yeah.
have fun, have a good time, safeties and corners. That's
Yeah.
you're not gonna like that. You're not gonna like that.
I feel like the last guy we can talk about is
Yeah,
like we could talk about Malachi Corley. Like I think that's a guy that I feel like he's going high. Like it doesn't seem like
probably.
that's even a question at this point. I
Yeah,
mean, he's in the top 50, I think, of Daniel Jeremiah's. I think he was like 45th. Like this
wow,
he's going in the second round. I
wow,
feel like that's probably his
yeah,
floor at this point. I feel his evaluation honestly made me feel guilty because I was really, really high on him before the Senior Bowl. And I had only watched like one or two games, and I was like, oh, this is going to be super fun. Like, I have so much hope for this.
yeah,
And then I watched like 2 or 3 more games. And I'm like, this is it. This is all he gets to do. Like, this is all he can do right now. Like, I think
yeah.
that the gadget stuff and like, I mean, dude's built like a tank. I love how, the contact balance, the physicality that he plays with the ball in his hands. I just, he doesn't get open. Like he doesn't like, they don't even allow him to all that often. But even when he did get to like run actual routes, like kind of like the Malik Washington thing a little bit, even to a higher degree, in my opinion, where he's just running into guys, doesn't
Yeah.
really like, he's not overly like snappy when he gets to run routes. I saw like 1 or 2 instances of him tracking the ball well down the field, but I just like, how am I going to get round 2 value out of this player? Like to me, he was like an
Running
early
back,
day 3 guy. I feel like that's the only way. Like
like
he's gonna have
maybe,
to be he's gonna
yeah,
have to get running back touches. You're gonna have to throw him like a ton of screens, schemed up production, things like that. But I don't. I'm terrified. Like I'm terrified that the Steelers have liked him a lot. Like they've shown a lot of interest in
yeah.
him. I'm terrified they're gonna take him at 51. I will be very very concerned.
Would you be okay if he was Arthur Smith's Tyler Algier in Pittsburgh? A little bit with some gadget stuff in there.
Yeah, I mean, I just
Like
I
I
struggle
don't
to
know.
see, like you kind of mentioned like archetypes that have failed, like the Debo Samuel recreations
We're
have
trying.
they failed, man. We've tried hard. You mentioned Chenault earlier. That was one of them.
Chenault,
Amari
Burks. They
Rogers.
even said it with Burks too a little bit, which is kind of
Yeah,
weird. Like with a power. I think who did it? Danny Kelly might have done it from the Ringer. Like Debo with a power up mushroom. I feel like might have been his comp. Where like he's big, he gets the big mushroom.
yeah.
That's like
It's tough, man. I can't. I just can't see it in round 2. Like I am optimistic.
no,
Like I just want to know. I want to know
shame.
like what he could be as like an actual receiver.
Yeah,
There's not anything on the film that tells me the traits are there for him to be like a very good separator. If there was, I would be willing to like buy into that like potential to take him like, somewhere early or midday too. I couldn't get there, and I tried, man. I watched. Same with Coleman. I watched five games, I think, of both those guys, and I tried to get there because I wanted my preconceived notions to be true, and they just weren't.
yeah.
Yeah. What do I have on Corley here? I had him ranked as wide receiver 17. Like I said, right after Javon Baker.
Oh my gosh, you put those two next to each other. How
15
dare
Yeah.
people,
you?
15 players too low for Jake.
Yeah.
15 players too low for Jake. But a lot of the stuff
I
that you
love
just
this
mentioned, I
running
mean,
bit,
the very simplistic route tree, I don't know. All of his touches are steamed up. Like there's no reps really against press man. A lot of length concerns. Yeah,
It's a very
I
Coleman
don't know.
situation. I'm rooting for him. I'm just not gonna be there. I'll be there
Yeah.
afterwards.
Yeah.
Which is kind of bandwagony, but like it's
Yeah.
just I feel like you in the slot you might get a little bit more of like Anias or even Jacob Cowing, honestly, like in terms of like routes and stuff like that. And it's just like obviously after the catch it matters a ton. Like if he goes to Dallas and they scheme him up stuff and they let him play running back because they obviously need that. Like okay, I'm now very intrigued to see how that goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find a place like that.
Okay,
I mean, obviously San Francisco, if they draft him, I'm sure he's gonna be good. Like I get it. I
yeah.
understand that. But
So like this is my thing, and like 100% full disclosure here. Like Dane Brugler, like the gold standard for like draft Twitter for draft evaluations. Like I think he's an excellent evaluator. I love his work. Like the beast
yeah,
is like absolutely unmatched.
love
Having
it.
said this goes back to a little bit about my point earlier. So I'm just gonna read real quick Dane's strengths and then like his summary real quick of Corley. Compact, muscular build, dangerous with the ball in his hands, thrived in quick game, gets to top speed quickly with crisp skills. I don't necessarily know that I agree with that. Can break tackles, runs fearless. NFL coaches will love his competitive nature. Hands catcher, I do agree with that. Like when they did throw in the
Yeah.
football, he was able to catch the ball away from his frame, which I like. Eager blocker. His summary is Corley needs to be more controlled in his breaks and tempo to consistently separate as a route runner, but he's dynamic with the ball in his hands. He has the speed, physicality, contact balance, ideal for a slot that uses motions, jet sweeps, and quick screens. His NFL comp is somewhere between Debo and Amari Rodgers, which is a wide spectrum. Okay, so like here's
When
goes
I
back to my
read that,
thing.
I heard a name, and I'll wait. I'll wait for you to finish. But I heard a name that
And
I go
so he's
back
the
to for
number
sure.
54. He's the number 54 player on Dane's board. And like, and again, I think Dane is
Wow.
excellent. But like, how do you read that scouting report on him? Like, and say that like think that like in this class that he's a top 50-ish player. I don't understand. I
Yeah.
just you're putting a lot of value into screen passes, into like a lot of the contact balance, the physicality. I don't know. Maybe somebody can get that type of value out of a player like this. It would not be me. I can tell you that it wouldn't be me at that point in the draft.
No. That sounded like Chenault. That's what it sounded like. And
Mm-hmm.
like again, he was ranked very highly as well. Right back in 2020, it was kind of like, all right, between
Mhm.
25 and 40, teams should be picking him.
Yeah.
Someone
No,
did,
and
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 it
when
didn't go well, right?
yeah, and
Like,
when Chenault was still like he was kind of in that conversation for like who the Steelers could potentially take like in that second round. Because was that the
That was
Claypool
without
year?
Mank. Yeah. 2020.
that was
Okay,
2020.
yeah.
See, no
Yep.
first rounder because of Minka. So
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I know like the names that were kind of like floating around was like Claypool and then but Chenault was a heavy one. And I
Yeah.
even like
Michael
I
Pittman
kind of
Jr.
Yes.
Pittman was my guy in that class. But
Number five. Number
Yeah.
um
five. Yep. Love him.
but I remember like even saying to
Big fan.
myself, like at that point in time, I was like, oh, like look at Debo. Like Debo, I think at that point in time was going into like his second year, maybe. But
Yes,
like
that would have
Debo
been.
was really good. And I kind of bought into a little bit of that hype and was like, oh, like you can take Chenault in day two and like get this type of archetype of
Yeah.
player or whatever. And like like you said, like all these guys that you just sit here and say, like, oh, like we'll just develop them as a route runner. Like to go from like bad or non-existent to like average is difficult, but
It's a
like
lot,
you
man.
got to understand like the stuff that people I feel like miss with the Debo like style of play is like Debo does things at least already at an average level, and he's
Yeah.
one of one in the things that he does exceptionally. Like he's one of one in terms of physicality, contact balance, ball carrier vision, all those different things. And he just happens to be average to above average to
Yeah.
good in like all the other receiver things. Like I feel like we search for people that are worse versions of what Debo is with the ball in their hands and also worse versions of how he is as a receiver.
Yeah.
And we say, oh, this guy can be Debo. Like that's not. I don't think that that's how
Oh,
that works, man.
oh
I don't
man.
know. That's just me. Corley will be interesting because he's another guy that like I am 100% willing to like reevaluate my process
Yeah, for
on
sure.
how to evaluate guys if I miss on him, especially
Yeah.
because he's going to be taken a lot higher than I have him ranked. So like those are the guys that I could end up eating crow about,
For
but.
sure.
I just the process for me it just does not make any sense that he's being
Yeah.
ranked that high. Just my opinion.
We're trying so hard to make it happen again. And it's just like some of these guys, like we don't need to just we don't have to keep doing this. We can like, you can go
We
get
can
other
just enjoy
guys.
Debo
A
as he is.
hundred
We can,
percent.
yeah.
Yeah. Because like I've seen like what 5 things, 6 things the last couple of weeks where it's like, who's the next Puka? It's like, buddy, we might not. It's like guys don't block like that, buddy. Like we're not gonna
Yeah.
get like guys like that all the time.
Every year now, we're gonna have a rookie that breaks the rookie record.
Yeah, there you go. That could be from the 5th round. Like who's the 5th rounder is gonna
Yeah.
break the rookie record now?
Yeah.
Like, all right, I'm gonna scroll down the consensus board. Brendan Rice, like it's just like scrolling through names that it's just some guys are one of one. So, I know we haven't got to corner at all, but do we want to hit on any of the other two Washington receivers quick?
I have a lot of takes on Jalen McMillan. I can give
Let's hear
that.
him. Let's hear him.
I can give that.
Let's hear
McMillan came in at 10 for me. I think.
My man.
Yeah, I'm fairly
Let's go,
high
baby.
on
Let's go.
McMillan. I like Polk too. I just prefer McMillan. They're kind of in like the same tier of guys that are like just outside like the top 50, kind of in that late second, early third round range. But like my blurb kind of on him was just silky smooth, man. Like he understands how to attack leverage of defenders. You get this dude a runway out of the slot, like he's excellent. He consistently got safeties turned around. He's an option route guru, I felt like, at Washington. He made some incredible catches, like adjusting to some inaccurate throws, which I feel like was really a theme for all the Washington receivers. And that's why we're talking about Michael Penix as a top 15 pick right now.
Could be.
But I actually think if you go back and watch McMillan's tape in 2022, that was when he was actually healthy. He was banged up this past season, wasn't even healthy like when he did return the couple times. But if you look at his tape in 2022, I mean, this dude was like had production on Rome's level. And I just felt like it was really good. And I'm a big believer in like his ability to get open as a separator, even if I don't think he has like this trump card or outstanding trait to his game. He just does a lot of things at a really high level, kind of similar to Polk. I just kind of prefer McMillan's game a little bit more.
Yeah, my one concern with McMillan is the contested catches. Obviously, I think everybody's kind of talked about that. I think day one, though, like you said, he's going to be a guy that can separate. But I came across this interesting stat that I had to bookmark for any Jalen McMillan conversation. Lowest catch rate on contested targets with at least 20 plus for round 1 through 3 wide receivers, including guys projected to do so in the 2024 class. 20% Jalen McMillan, 24% Hollywood Brown, 27% Malachi Corley, 28% Dwayne Estridge, 33% Jamari Thrash, 34% Xavier Worthy, 34% Tutu Atwell.
Not great players.
Not ideal.
No.
And two in this class along with McMillan.
Wasn't that multiple? Because Corley,
Thrash, and Worthy.
Right.
Worthy.
Oh no, there were three. Right, three. Yeah, Worthy.
Yeah.
You said two.
Boy.
That's right.
Yeah, that's a lot.
It's not great.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely, I didn't see him consistently like win at the catch point. That was definitely a negative.
Yeah.
I felt like in his scouting report, but
Just don't do it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, just don't do it.
If
That's
you're
probably
not good,
like
don't find yourself there, right? Like,
Yeah. That's probably the one area that I feel like Polk really has him.
Oh yeah.
Like Polk is a guy that like he's really like his hands are so strong, man. And like I can see like if you're betting on that type of player, like I said, I think he's going to be extremely useful. I just kind of prefer McMillan a little bit, but they're honestly like in the same tier. I wonder what Jalen's what is his contested catch numbers? What do they look like? I feel like they've got to be exceptional.
Oh yeah, Polk's have to be off the charts. I think. Actually, wait a minute. I just did his video. I should know this. I should really know.
Yeah, I feel like just Polk, like the hand-eye coordination, man. Like
55% only behind. Only behind Rome.
13 of 24. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's exceptional.
Yeah, would love that. Yeah, I think McMillan. Like, I'll take McMillan pre-catch, no question. Polk at the catch point, no question between the two, and after the catch, I think. Yeah, I mean, I think they do different things. I mean, McMillan's got enough burst and some speed out there, but I think he's, he can play the elusive card a little bit more with how he moves, and I think Polk is just somebody like just get him going.
Yeah,
and like he'll maintain that speed and an acceleration on any type of path you want to go in, as long as not that he can't like cut. And I think there's a couple reps where I go, oh yeah, he set himself up well. Like he's adjusting his feet as the ball's getting there, and like, okay, he set himself up well. I like both of them. I think it's just like, more flavor. You want like the downfield, I need to win the ball a few times, help my quarterback out, and also block really well. Like, give me Polk. If you want like smooth operator, find some windows for your quarterback a little bit more, like get yourself McMillan.
Yeah, and I think with McMillan, man, like I feel like in and out of breaks, that was the big separation point. I feel like there is a difference to me between McMillan, the way he gets in and out versus Polk. But, Polk does have the catch point stuff on him. I definitely think that's the thing with Polk, too, is like he has nice size, but like he plays bigger than his frame, which is a good
Yeah.
and bad thing. Like I thought that he was going to be faster than what he was.
Yeah.
Like over the course of the season, at first, like when I started watching him, because I was the least familiar with his game, but like when over the course of the season, I saw him get like hawked down from behind. Like there were some times where he would get caught like on plays that would probably score with most guys. That's how I was kind of wishing
Yeah.
he was just a little bit faster, but he's a good player for sure.
Yeah. All right. Smitty, you said you got to bounce quick. Do you want to plug anything quick before you get out of here? I know you guys are, of course, doing the show on Thursday and Friday.
We will, but you got your own stuff going on, so I'm not worried
No,
about that.
plug
But
it. Plug it. I don't do it.
we got to.
insist.
We will also be live for the NFL draft over there for night 1 and night 2. But again, I know Jake's gonna have his own stuff going on, but always fun to watch back. I know Jake watches ours back. I will be watching Jake's back. Mid Kuiper Jr. will be in the building over on our channel, so excited to get him for another year over there. Also on the channel, sometime this week before the draft, I'm gonna have a conversation with Dan Orlovsky of ESPN about pick number 20 coming to the channel here very shortly. So go follow us over there at Around the 412 and be on the lookout for that.
Yeah, actually, I guess we'll wrap up this actually. Just talk wide receivers. I know we wanted to get to a lot more. But
Listen, man,
everybody's got to bounce, but I'm glad I love talking about this position. So I was fully in on going long at wide receiver.
Let's just have a really long thread on X, just
About
basically having the
corners?
same conversation we would have had on here. Yeah.
About corners. All right, bet that'll be a great bit for it. I'm so in. So someone start it. We'll get there. Derek, do you want to plug anything quick on the way out? I'll drop obviously both your channels and Around the 412 as well in the description on YouTube. But
Yeah, at Steelers_DB on Twitter and YouTube. I'm not streaming during the draft because I'm not a sicko like these two. But I am going to be streaming, talking all things NFL draft and Steelers before the draft. So like 6 to 8 Eastern time on the first night. And then I'll probably stream from like 5:30 to 7, I guess, on Friday. So if any Packers fans want some NFL draft content and don't mind the occasional Steelers fans yelling at you in the comments, like y'all can come stop by.
It's
but
perfect. You can just start at Derek's stream
Yeah.
and then make your way to
yeah, and then you
Jake's
can
mine.
I'll be shuffling people over because I know a lot of people were asking me like if I would stream like during the draft. It's not my thing. What I typically do is in my basement I'll have, the TV on ESPN, and then I'll usually have my laptop like next to me watching, flipping between Smitty and Jake's stream and occasionally chiming in when something stupid happens, like, somebody takes, Malachi Corley with like the 25th pick in the draft or something like that.
No, don't do it. Don't do this.
But
man.
I'm excited about draft weekend, man. This is the best time of the year. And, like Jake said earlier, content creator Christmas and a lot of fun stuff to do.
Yeah, hopefully, we'll see. Might see if the schedules can align, and maybe we talk a little something about how things went, maybe for everybody after the draft. We'll see. Yeah, if we can get this group back
And then
together.
we can talk about corners then once we see landing spots and cheat a little bit.
There you go. I like that. Again, thank you guys so much, both of you for hopping on for this. I'm glad we got to do this a little bit. For those listening on and watching on YouTube, I'm telling you, we got to go flood Derek's stream, pre-draft at the very least. It'll be a fun time over there. I'll be hanging out in there as I'm trying to make graphics probably at the last minute for the stream on Thursday and such. So pop over there and yeah, I can't wait. I'm itching for this thing to get started. There's no doubt. But yeah, thank you guys again. And yeah, for throw those thumbs up down there as well, by the way, and for
subscribe, hit that notification bell.
Hit that notification bell. Yeah, thank you guys so much. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, of course, listeners and watchers. And yeah, it's almost time.